Have you ever thought of a world without problems and how perfect that sounds? It's just you sitting, not worrying about anything at all. A world without problems is the perfect thing that you can imagine. But what if I tell you that problems will exist forever? They are actually necessary for growth and development. Now, before we actually talk about that, allow me to share with you a simple definition of what a problem is. A problem is a matter or a situation regarded as unwelcome or harmful and needing to be dealt with and overcome. So, when it comes to having problems, right, they make us uneasy. It disrupts everything. Problems disrupt our daily activities, depending on how huge the problem is. So, for example, if you have financial issues, you're short of money, you can't do so many things. You can't buy groceries, you can't take the transport, can't do things like the normal way that you used to do because you have an issue. You have a financial issue or a financial problem like in your situation at the moment, which makes you feel very uneasy, which is why from there you will actually look for solutions to remove this sense of uneasiness so that you can feel easy again. And before you actually come up with a solution, obviously you will have to study the problem. You will have to know what is the problem. You have to know what are the stakeholders involved in that problem. You would have to look up for consequences of the problem, and you will also need to know maybe other aspects of the problem that you have to study before you actually come up with a solution. You have to understand the question before you solve it. Lecturers have told me understanding the question is half of answering the question. It means that to understand a problem is as crucial as the solution. So, what do we say about learning from problems? When we learn from problems, it's actually allowing us to discover our capabilities far more than we can ever imagine. Problems make us move, especially cognitively, or maybe the problem solving skills are going to be developed even further. Critical thinking, in addition to that. All these factors will point that problems allow humans to develop ourselves, to progress in a particular society. And imagine if there's no problems at all, it will be as stagnant as water where mosquitoes lay their eggs. And I suppose Allah created lives with problems partly because He wants us to be proactive and continuously think and offer solutions for the greater good, for stability, for harmony, progress, and of course cooperation with everybody. Which is why problems are necessary for growth and development. Now we can actually safely say that a perfect world is not a world without problems, but it is a world with problems. On top of talking about problems, right, I would also love to mention that, believe it or not all problems are meant to be solved, because there are many other problems out there that are still persistent up until this day. And I suppose conflict theories will actually argue that, society or like history as a whole is just a battle or a clash of social class fighting for resources, fighting for power. That indicates that problems will never be able to be resolved to zero. There will always be problems that persist up until the end. And the only way for us to tackle with it is to mitigate and control it. That is the best way that we can do. And another example would be the United Nations 10th Sustainable Developmental Goal, which states reduce inequalities. They don't say zero inequality, like zero hunger, no poverty. Why is it reduce inequalities? Well, that means after some thought, I actually knew why there was the reason behind that. And I would say it's actually because life is unequal. And that is why a world without problems is also a problem. And not all problems are meant to be solved.